In Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the Oni is described as a large giant, specifically appearing as a vaguely demonic ogre. In lore, the Oni of 5th edition are said to be distantly related to ogres, though they are smarter, wiser, more charismatic, and overall more powerful, which makes them the ideal allies and guards for other evil, intelligent creatures such as witches or hags. The Oni has an AC of 16 and 110 hit points, as well as having both a walking and flying speed of 30. They have a +4 to strength, a 0 in dex, a +3 in constitution, a +2 in intellect, a +1 in wisdom, and a +2 in charisma. They have a +3 dex save, a +6 constitution save, a +4 wisdom save, and a +5 charisma save. They have bonuses in arcana, deception, and perception, and have dark vision up to 60 feet. All of this gives them a challenge rating of 7. The Oni is an innate spellcaster with a spell save of 13. They can cast darkness and invisibility as many times as they want, and can cast Charm Person, Cone of Cold, Gaseous Form, and Sleep once per day. All of their weapon attacks are considered magical, and the Oni also regains 10 HP at the start of its turns as long as it has at least 1 HP left. They can also make 2 melee attacks, choosing their claws or their glaive. Their claws have a +7 to hit and deal 1d8 +4 slashing damage, a range of 5 to 12. The glaive is also a +7 to hit but has a range of 10 feet, and deals 2d10 +4 damage in its normal form, or 1d10 +4 damage when in medium or small form. Speaking of these different forms, the Oni can also shapeshift into a small or medium humanoid to mask its true form, and its glaive shrinks to accommodate. In combat, I believe that the Oni is a stalker, employing hit and vanish mechanics to defeat its enemies. Their stat block indicates that they are well versed in deception, and their ability to shapeshift into other humanoids indicates that transforming themselves and lying about their true form would be a staple of their strategy. Oni are powerful creatures, but are immediately recognizable. Having one in the guise of a human, for instance, would allow an Oni to study its potential prey and gain their trust before it attacks. I would personally set up a scenario in which the Oni lures players into its lair, perhaps posing as a guide into a dangerous swamp. Once the players are in the Oni's hunting ground, I would have the Oni transform back into itself and attack the healers, if it has managed to identify them. Once its long con has played its part, I would have the Oni fly away into darkness, mist, or other obscuring features of its hunting ground and cast invisibility. Players will be unable to target the Oni directly, and due to its flight being noiseless, it might be impossible to find without magical aid or without the use of AoE spells. I would then use the Oni's Charm Person to do what you know I love to do, and attempt to take over the mind of the party's tank, gaining an ally on the ground. I would then use the Sleep spell to try and take out some of the more frail members of the party like the casters, and I would use Cone of Cold if 2 or more players ever bunched up together. Once spells are no longer available or viable, the strategy shifts to one of surprise attacks followed up by invisibility, flying, and regaining hit points. By having the Oni strike from invisibility and then use flight to gain distance, they will likely only be hit by ranged players, limiting the amount of damage they'll take. If they manage to take out ranged players throughout combat or through the Sleep spell, they will have even less to worry about. This strategy eventually devolves into strike from invisibility, use your flying speed to move away, and then wait. On the Oni's next turn, you could have them use invisibility or darkness to hide again, and then rinse and repeat. Your players should feel like they are being hunted by a foe that can easily avoid them, forcing them to use up precious spell slots and gear simply to keep the Oni in sight. To add another layer to the combat, you can always have the Oni leave the fight when it senses that it's losing, escaping into darkness or invisibility to stalk them again another day. This opens your adventure up to a possible Oni hunt, or to the Oni becoming a recurring villain. In mythology, the Oni are a type of yokai or demon that typically resemble an orc, ogre, or other troll-like creature with horns sprouting from their heads. They're often depicted as large, brutish, demonic creatures and spirits that revel in murder and cannibalism. They're used in Japanese literature and art to invoke a feeling of terror and discomfort, leaning on the horror of the grotesque. While Oni in traditional folklore and theater are always villains that commit atrocities, modern Japanese media has started to portray them in less frightening ways, telling stories that use them in ways other than that of violent villains. In fact, Oni masks and costumes are routinely used in modern Japanese culture to ward away evil, and some are even placed on buildings to act in a similar function to gargoyles. Most modern Oni stories are similar to fairy tales, in that they are meant to frighten children into behaving. Don't go out alone at night or an Oni will swallow you whole. When comparing the monster to the myth, we find that the 5th edition Oni, or common Oni in previous editions, is a stripped down version of the mythical Oni. Gone are the overarching connections to spirituality or a spirit world found in myth, instead opting to make the common Oni a spellcasting ogre or giant. In 5th edition, the Oni is categorized as a giant, but in 4th edition and and earlier they were often categorized as giants with a subcategory of spirit, or were otherwise connected to a spiritual existence. In many ways, the 5th edition Oni feels like a typical evil spellcaster creature that uses the name of the Japanese spirit, but really just acts as a westernized boogeyman, or a stalker variation on another D&D monster that uses innate spellcasting to lure adventurers to their doom. If you enjoyed that video, consider giving it a like and giving me a follow. And for more of my videos, you can find me on Twitch @Moglaroo, YouTube @Moglaroo Streams, and TikTok @Moglaroo Streams as well.